think the benefit is of doing charcuterie cart versus boards are? I mean, I know like the first thing to me, I think would be less waste.
Welcome to the Charcuterie Launch Lab Podcast, where passion meets profit. If you've ever dreamed of turning your love for charcuterie, or food of any kind, into a thriving online business, well then you're in the right place. We're Andrea and Patty, the Grazing Biz Sisters. With over 60 years combined experience as a chef and digital marketer, we have walked in your shoes starting our own online businesses. We'll share all of our tips, advice, struggles, and best strategies to help you launch and grow your own online foodie business with ease. The Charcuterie Launch Lab is a space for all food creators and entrepreneurs just like you. Let's dive in and get your yummy business launched online, one board at a time.
Hey, welcome back to the Charcuterie Launch Lab Podcast.
Hello.
Hi, sister. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
Staying warm in this beautiful Arizona weather.
Yeah, we got doing real nice, real nice. Well, today we are going to talk about charcuterie carts, right? Charcuterie carts. And even though neither of us have actually had one, Andrew knows enough about the business and she's in the process. Well, I'll let you say what it is, right?
Yeah. I mean, charcuterie carts seem to be the new
The hot topic.
trend. It's the new thing. So it's just a cart that can be, they can be portable, they can be on wheels, whatever it is, what have you. If you look it up, you'll just see a million different versions of it. And basically it's a place where you stand behind it or you have a person standing behind it and they just serve up whatever the customer chooses out of your selection that's on the cart. So again, it's kind of hard to explain without showing a picture.
I basically picture it as a hot dog cart, only with charcuterie meats on it. So, I mean, we've all seen hot dog carts, don't you think?
Yeah, it's just like that, essentially, only, it's a little more fancier version of it.
Of course.
And it doesn't require anything hot. You've got everything on ice. So, but the bigger thing is just customer service wise, it's a different setup than like going and setting up a grazing board or a cheese board or whatever, and then people pick off of it. They have to come up to the cart and ask, and they see all the choices in front of them, and they can point to what they want.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the benefit is of doing charcuterie cart versus boards are? I mean, I know like the first thing to me, I think would be less waste. So, but to me, less prep.
Less prep, less waste. It all depends on the event. So whether or not you're going to go to, for example, like a farmer's market, or if you're going to go do a wedding for a couple of hours or an hour for their cocktail reception, or maybe they want you to stay for more than that. Who knows? But it's all different depending on how the event that you're at. Yeah.
Right. So the difference from an event that you might get hired to go do, you're getting paid probably a flat rate, say per hour of $400 or $500 an hour or whatever you want to charge, versus I'm going to charge for each one of the trays so you would have a tray or something that you're going to fill up for the folks and then they would walk off, or a plate or something, right? Is that?
Yeah. You mean like for a wedding? So a normal like cheese board. But in this case, everything is separated and it's just in these little bins in front of you on your charcuterie cart. And you're just using your fingers or, your tongs, whatever you're using to take out what they ask for. And everything is pre-cut. So you're not cutting anything in front of them. They're just in their little containers, and, you're putting a little portion of whatever they ask for in
plate,
the serving,
or a cup, or a tray, or whatever.
Serving vessel, whatever it's going to be, which is, I mean, you could go on and on and on with that one. So cups and
Do you remember, I got to tell the story about, you remember, so I used to have a business way back in the day. This was, I don't know, 15 years ago-ish, maybe, where I had a traveling donut vendor business. And so what I had was, and I know you remember, but I'm just telling the world here, that I had Hope you remember. Jeez.
Oh, I was there. So I remember.
But anyway, so I would set up at outdoor events with these things. So I sit here and talk like I don't know what I'm talking about half the time with the vending stuff, but I do because I lived through this, but it was even worse because I had to set up hot grease and wait for it to cool down at the end of an event and then get it out of there in 110-degree heat, which was not a good idea in Arizona. But anyway, that's a different story. But what I remember, one of the events, and our brother James was in town, I remember this, I did this thing called dough nachos. And so they were little mini donuts, and we had like a nacho tray, and we put the little mini donuts in the tray as opposed to throwing them in a bag and shaking them up with sugar. We put them in a tray, and then we had side dips so they could pick out the dips. So that was basically the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
So the tray was about, I don't know, maybe about 7 or 8 inches by 4 or 5 inches, something like
one of
that.
those little like French fry boats.
Right. And then I had another idea where I also did them on a stick. So it was donuts on a stick where, I would, drizzle goodies on them, put them on a stick like a shish kebab stick. So it was kind of the same kind of event thing. Those things were so good. I still dream about those. But don't try to sell that stuff at an event where there's a lot of alcohol and drunken people. That's what happened to me. And they're too busy.
That's when I was with you at the
the Phoenix Open.
At the Phoenix Open. Oh my God, drunken people and donuts.
Yeah, well, it was right after the first of the year too, and that was kind of stupid because it was right at the height of the low carb diet, and they would rather spend money on alcohol than they did these donuts. But anyway. So I guess that's the kind of point I'm making is you can have a tray that would serve these, the stuff, so make it easier. I think the whole idea of trying to keep everything cooler and all that too makes a lot more sense. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how somebody might have a menu. So does it make sense for something like this that if somebody went to your website and they wanted to have a cart business, how would they present what's going to be in the cart? So would they have like maybe 3 or 4 different menus of the different items that will be in the cart? So this menu includes this menu includes this, and this menu includes this. You tell me what you want for your event, and I'll bring that menu over with those items in it. Or would they go to the site and say, I want to have a drop down and pick out the items that I want in the cart to show up when you come to the event? So there's choices.
Yeah.
What do I don't know what you recommend because you haven't actually done it yet, but I think having the different menus would make sense. It'd just make life easier for them. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I would make it easy. So, most of the carts that I've seen have 12 little things, little containers. So of those 12 containers, and also what I've seen over and over, which makes sense to me, is people offering, okay, so you could do like an American version and you take 12, you can have 12 of any of these items.
Okay.
And then they may have an upscale version, so maybe that American version was $10. The upscale version is $15 and you get imported cheese, and some more expensive items, but you pick 12 off of that menu. To me, that makes a lot of sense. And, it's kind of, or you could just mix it up and say, well, you get 12 of everything and just say your price is $12.
Or what? You mean per head or?
Per head. So when you say per head, you want to also say at the same time, but it's a minimum of 20 people, because if you don't, so you have to say a minimum of 20 people, and or whatever you feel, I would say minimum of 20. And then you also want to have the per hourly flat rate to have somebody there, which looks like a minimum of 2 hours for an event. And they're going to pay somewhere between $325 and $400 for that 2 hours. And that is part of the cost of the cart. And then on top of that, you're going to pay per person for for the event. So
I think the key on this too is not, you're paying for the time you're standing there, or whoever you're gonna, if it's somebody you're hiring, that I mean, because they got to pay for you to be there, because you're not just gonna let them walk up and take stuff off the cart.
No.
If you're gonna do that, you might as well set up a table.
And it's interesting because I also feel like I've seen some things online where it looks like that's what they're doing, where they're setting the cart up and they're just letting people go to town, which makes no sense to me. So only because
just
why
set
would
up a grazing table?
You could have a nicer grazing table that looks nicer. I don't know why you would do the cart. So I have seen that where they rent just the cart and they put the food in it and they leave it and they come back later for it, which, I don't know.
And well, I'm not going to give
If I was a customer, I wouldn't do that. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. Well, I guess now my thing is, though, if you're going to go out and do an event where you're going to get paid per person walking up to you versus I'm getting paid hourly to be here, you just got to make sure that you've got your costs right. Which, by the way, if you people that are listening, which we all love you guys so much, if you didn't know, we have a charcuterie calculator that might help you. So go to grazingbiz.com/earn-with-cheese, grazingbiz.com/earn-with-cheese, and you can get our free calculator that our very smart brother put together for us with an Excel spreadsheet. Yeah, there's a link here in the show notes. So, but you want to make sure that you obviously are pricing this thing right. And do you think you'd make more money doing this versus a board? What do you think?
I've been kind of going back and forth about that one. I don't see, looking at it, that there is much of a difference in terms of how much money you would make. What I do think is that you're setting aside that time, and physically it's going to be a little more work. Now, I have been working on my own foldable charcuterie cart. I have a very small car, so, but I don't need a big car because I'm doing deliveries and I'm only doing maybe 2 boards at a time. But my thought with the cart was that I don't want to have to go buy a truck to make this thing happen. And also, those things are heavy. They're super heavy. There's no way you could deliver one of those big carts with the wheels and the da-da-da-da by yourself. So, but the folding ones, which I looked online and saw them on various different places, which people are charging a pretty, they're kind of expensive.
Yeah,
I would have made my own one weekend.
Yeah.
So I can say that one of the questions I had about it was, now I've put it together. It's all folded. It's all beautiful. It's exactly what I envisioned in my head as being useful. However, it's really heavy still.
Still heavy. Yeah.
It's still heavy. So I'm going to put hinges on it to be able to pull them apart. So you can have hinges that have pins on them. Anyway, this is that.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So that you can pull the individual pieces out. And anybody who's been looking at a charcuterie cart online, and there's a bazillion people selling them, woodworkers, this is where the men are getting involved because they're out there making these things.
Girl power. Girls can do this.
I know. I did it. I've never used a saw in my life. And I did it that weekend, and I, learned how to do it.
Yeah.
But the point is, those things are really heavy. I don't know that I could lift it up, and I have a Jeep Wrangler. So, I don't know that I easily could pick it up and lift it. So that is one thing to think about. Yeah. We were going in the direction of whether or not you make money. Now, keep in mind, this is a labor intensive thing. So it means somebody has to stand there. So first of all, you're setting it up. So give yourself 45 minutes to an hour for the setup. And then you're there for 2 hours, because that to me is the minimum that you would provide. Even if they only want you for an hour, you are still charging for 2 hours.
Right.
So therefore, then you have another hour. So you're talking about 4 hours of your time being used. So that to me is a little bit the worry that I have. I actually was thinking in terms of not necessarily, yes, there's a lot of people that are going to do weddings and birthdays and whatever, anniversaries, outdoor events specifically. I could see this being a good thing. But I was thinking in terms of going to a vendor market, like a food truck kind of situation.
Right.
I think you'd make a lot more money off of it because you could do small, medium, large size vessels,
Yeah.
different prices, and you have all your stock below and you just keep filling it in,
Yeah.
and you choose the product that you're putting out. So if you get a good deal on, I don't know, brie, you're gonna like throw that out there, and you're gonna get a great, get markup on it. So the thing with that everybody needs to know is that requires a totally different license.
Yeah, and we were getting to that question now.
Right,
So
right.
yeah, let's
So
talk
you have
about
to have
that.
you have to have a food vendor license, which Patty knows about, which requires, sometimes I need to check with mine. I've seen so many people doing this and they don't have the hand washing station and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm questioning maybe they don't have the same requirements as when you make hot food from a raw state and you're cooking it.
Yeah.
I'm
I was
I know
I
you
was
did,
deep
right.
frying and I wasn't really touching anything.
Right.
Really. It was just mixed in a mixer and it went in and I had to have the 3-station water
Right,
sink.
right.
The
Right.
portable water sinks, which for those of you who don't know, you've basically got 3 like bins that are like, I wanted people that aren't seeing us on video.
Like bussing tubs or
Like bussing tubs,
Yeah.
right? You need 3 in a row and they need a wash, rinse, and then a second rinse basically. So, and then a drying station basically. So finding space for that. You're right. I mean, I'm curious about that, but I think every cottage law is
But
going to be
I think
different.
so. I have seen charcuterie carts in play in different places, and I don't see them like, it's like when you watch the hot dog people on the corner, like they're not cleaning their hands. They're not they don't have a hand washing station, but yet they're still there legally.
Yeah.
So without going into a ton of detail and boring everybody, I don't know what the rules are with that. And I'm still, when I find out, I will let everybody know.
Well, that's Arizona.
That's Arizona. Everybody's different.
You got to check your state, your county, your city, everything.
You keep saying that, and we're going to keep saying it until we're blue in the face.
And what did your advice to her today, because we were chatting with this gal today about it, was just contact your health department and ask them. That's it.
I know. And I've also seen, I mean, they are there to help you. That's what they get paid to do. They don't want you going out there and doing things illegally and killing people in the process.
Right.
So they want you to have this information, and they're not gonna, they're not there to like get all up in your face and tell you how to run your business. They're telling you how to do it legally.
Right.
So I also saw in some of the maybe more urban areas, this one lady, I'm always following what people are doing and trends and stuff. This one lady was complaining because she couldn't get a hold of her health department and they never called her back and blah, blah, blah. I don't know, but I wouldn't go and do anything until I had the information that I needed.
Right.
Because the last thing you want to do is get in front of people and you don't have all the proper requirements, and then people start to question you and then they look at you. I wouldn't even want to go there. So
and I think no matter what, you definitely want to make sure that you have things to make sure that you're staying clean. So any kind of safety and hygiene essentials, gloves, sanitizers,
utensils. What I used to do when I did events for the many different things that I've done in my life for other people, for other companies, was I always had, wrapped in plastic, all these clean utensils. So let's say you dropped a utensil on the floor, boom, bring another one out and it's all wrapped in plastic. It's clean. It's ready to go. And that's how I did it. Just a suggestion. Yeah. So, because after an hour or two of picking things up with tongs or whatever, they get dirty and they get kind of crusty. So you want to change them out.
Hey, Charcuterie Launch Lab listeners. I've got some exciting news for you that you do not want to miss. We're launching the free webinar bootcamp that we're calling the Charcuterie Business Bootcamp. Turn your charcuterie passion into profits in less than 2 weeks. Whether you're just starting out or looking to scale your charcuterie business, this bootcamp is packed with actionable strategies to help you monetize your passion quickly and effectively.
In this webinar bootcamp, you'll learn the important things to consider when starting your business. We'll both be here to teach you everything from what you need to know about licensing, health certification and insurance, to creating your menus, pricing for profits and branding, to how and where to create your online presence with an easy-to-build website, automatically taking orders, and growing it through innovative marketing with or without ads. Spaces are limited, so don't wait. Head on over to grazingbiz.com/bootcamp. That is grazingbiz.com/bootcamp to reserve your spot today. Transform your love for charcuterie into a thriving online business. The bootcamp is free, so sign up today. We can't wait to see you there.
Yeah. And so how about, what if you're doing like an event's a little bit darker at nighttime? Do you have any suggestions on how to, if you don't have like power, I suppose it would be nice if you had power, but
Yeah.
I know what I had to do at times. I had an inverter that would hook into a marine battery that
Right.
when I was out at events myself, we could you just go look up inverters, and they got these things you can plug into batteries that are like car batteries, right? And then it'll automatically invert it so that you can plug things into it. And so it comes in handy, but for lighting and all of that kind of stuff,
Well, I would be considering considering all of that before I even took an event.
Yeah.
So,
Maybe
because
you
the
don't
last
do-
thing you want to do is go out and buy all this extra stuff for one event, or maybe you don't want to do those nighttime events. That's just something you have to work through and decide. But I think the inverter thing is definitely a good idea. And now they have battery operated lights, chargeable lights.
That's true.
So you could hook that up. I have pop-up tents, which I can do all by myself.
Yeah.
I bought the pop-up tent that I don't need help with. So, all these things come into consideration. I probably wouldn't do an event at night just because I'm alone most of the time.
What do you do? What do you recommend for signage? Because I know you do a lot of this when you're doing your events, as far as signage for, like, say, what's on the menu, and about your branding and that kind of stuff. What are your recommendations on that? I know I had one of those banners that I just had, and they're relatively inexpensive.
Yeah. You can buy those banners. I bought my banner at Walgreens, for crying out loud. And they produced it in less than 24 hours. So you can get banners.
They're on every corner.
They are. You don't have to even go to you don't have to go to Walmart and wait a week and a half. I just went to the Walgreens in my little teeny town up here in northern Arizona, and they made it. Took them 24 hours. So you can do that if you're going to an event. Now, if you're going to like a wedding event or something, they're not going to want all that.
Yeah.
So you're going to make yourself a nice little sign that you put in maybe a vintage frame of some sort that shows the items that are on there, and you subtly put your logo. You put your logo on everything, including the cups, if they let you. If it's a wedding and maybe they want their own personalized cups, and that's another upsell. If you do want that, you can easily create stickers and just print them out and put them on the cups. But in that case, you're still going to put subtly your logo everywhere.
Sure, absolutely.
Everywhere,
And so I think one of the things you got to remember about when you're doing outdoor events like that is that people are going to be walking around with one hand. And I was actually watching, I don't know what it was, this morning or yesterday, about and I had brought this up in some charcuterie group about making these flowers, right? And so you're making these flowers and these gorgeous things, and there was this whole discussion about waste at the end of it, and it was a great actual question about what is the biggest thing you see wasted, and it's the things that people can't have to release a second hand to get the things off the table. So for instance, they said a lot of the times the flowers, the meat flowers or whatever.
Yeah, the meat or vegetable flowers. It's mostly because people don't want to mess with them. They look pretty and they don't want to
mess with them. But here's the other thing that you didn't think about is if you're putting down a whole thing of say, grapes, and they're all hooked together and they're
Mhm.
more than what some one person would have, it doesn't make sense for somebody that you can't just go grab it off of there without touching it with your hands. You want to
Mhm.
have
Mhm.
tongs to be able to pick up little versions of them. So I guess whatever vessel, I guess I'm getting back to with regard to the cart, is whatever vessel you end up using. You don't want it to be like massive that you got to hold it like this because you're probably going to be
No,
walking
no, no,
around
no.
while you're eating.
Yeah, you're going to
So,
separate out those grapes. You're going to take the green things off the tomatoes. If you're using, cherry or grape tomatoes, you're going to make it to where they don't have to,
yeah,
they can either pick it up with their finger or, it depends on the event. They may want you to provide, um, you know,
forks or something or
forks.
tongs or
Sorry, I don't
picks
know
or
why I
yeah.
just had a complete senior moment.
Yeah.
So,
Because you're a senior?
because
I shouldn't
unfortunately,
laugh.
I'm not as senior as you.
I know.
So,
Um,
anyways, those are all things to put into place, but we could go on and on about
Yeah.
all.
Well, I guess the bottom line is whatever you end up using and making sure that the pricing's right so that you're not walking away losing money in this
Mm-hmm,
venture and the
mm-hmm,
amount of time you include all of this, the gas, the mileage, the amount of time for setup, the amount of time for breakdown. And
right.
if and I guess I mean, why would someone do it? Because I actually think it's really
It's
cool
cool.
and you don't see it very
It's really
often.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have any doubt that people, so when I looked at just like I was looking at other people's stuff and like trying to figure out if that made sense price wise, trying to figure out if the markup made sense. It looks like to me, let's say you have 50 people, they're going
Mhm.
to spend the bill on that is going to be close to $2,000. So, if
Yeah,
they want to pay it because they like the aesthetic look of it,
yeah,
lo and behold, let them do it.
right.
Because at the end, your goal would only be you want to spend only about $500 or $600. That's going to be your cost. So
Hmm.
at the most for let's say a $2,300-$2,400 thing. So
Hmm.
it just
But I
depends.
think you also brought up something kind of really important to know is like what other food. So if you're going to a wedding, for instance, you're going to do this for like pre-dinner cocktail hour while they're out taking photos kind of thing. You got to keep in mind what other food's going to be available at that event because how much time you spend there
Right.
is not going to be anywhere near what you probably think in general. If I'm
Yeah.
only, like you told the gal, don't really plan for more than an hour because the
Right.
reality is they shouldn't take more than that while everything
Cocktail
else,
hours.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's cocktail hour,
It's
right?
cocktail
So,
hour. Usually it's only an hour and a half. If it's a wedding, it's only long enough to let the bride and the people take their pictures and then it's over.
right.
Lo and behold, we're done.
See,
So
to
don't
me,
get
that sounds
carried
like a
away
slam
with
dunk.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah. So don't get carried away with the amount of food you bring because you may not need that much. But
yeah,
then again, you don't want to run out because then you look like like you're cheating them.
right.
So
Well,
you
does it
have,
make sense
there's a
to
fine
bring
line.
you have a cooler underneath or wherever you're putting
Absolutely.
it that it with stuff that you either already have pre-cut
Mm-hmm.
or you just bring it to have it in the event you run out, you can always like quickly cut some more stuff up, I guess, if you or do
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, you're always going to want to have that backup. And here's the thing, in my mind, when I was first designing this cart, I want to have, so that's one of the reasons why mine turned out a little bit heavier is because I put up these flip things on the side to
Oh, to
make
make
it
the
just slightly bigger.
bigger
And the reason I did that is mostly like, is again,
for
it's not going
looks.
to be a useful situation, but I might put the cups there, the empty cups or
Yeah.
whatever. But the bigger thing was I wanted to have a place for a cutting board, just a medium size
Right.
cutting board there.
Right.
Number one, to be useful, to cut up more cheese or whatever if you need it. But people love to watch you do that stuff. So every once in a while, you whip out something and you make a little flower, or something. They just want to watch. It's
Yeah.
part of the show.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. No,
that,
I
and
think
it's
that's
something you
great.
can give as a value added that doesn't cost you anything.
Mm-hmm.
So in my plans, I have all of the 12 because I'm doing 12 as well. 12 of
Yeah.
the thingies, the containers on ice. And then, I think it turned out to be like a 2 foot, it was like two by the depth of the thing, which was 2 by 4. So I did like a 2 foot board that would fit there. a cutting.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Well, we're going to follow your journey along as you roll this side of your business out.
yeah,
I think that's really a cool
it's gonna
thing, which is
be
another
interesting.
reason why we're doing this today, because we've been talking about it a lot over the last few weeks on how does that look. And now we talked today about setting it up on our website. So, we offer services for you, for anybody have an interest in wanting to get your business online and actually do this the right way and not have
Yeah.
it like Andrea sent me a link to somebody's site this morning, and I go, well, the desktop version looks amazing. Did she happen to look at what it looks like on the phone? I took some screenshots.
Yeah.
There were
It
words
was all
were
over
too
the place.
big. It was all doubled up. And so if I can give anybody advice as you're trying to decide what you're going to do, is like, we offer services for this. This is what we do. We provide coaching, training, software, all in one marketing platform. You do not need to go anywhere else for all of this, and full blown course to get you off the ground if this is brand new to you. So make sure you reach out to us and check it out at grazingbiz.com. You can learn all about it. It's the Charcuterie Launch Lab. But we have everything you need so that it does look good. And we're going to create a whole section for Andrea for her charcuterie cart business. So when they come to the site, they'll be able to pick out, oh, I just want boards, or I want a table, or I want this cart. And so it's just another offering that you can provide to your people, right? So, and if you might find out you absolutely love it and then dump the whole idea of just creating boards. I mean, I could totally see that happening. And gal we talked to, we're helping this morning, she doesn't have any board business. She's just really focused on this cart business, which I think is amazing. So
Yeah, she's going
know.
100%.
Yeah.
She's
She's
going
going
for it.
100% in on it. And so it's kind of exciting. So yeah, we're going to watch everyone follow this new journey on these cool things. Now, I don't know how long they've been out, but we've been doing our research and watching. There's these people make these things, and they're not rocket science. So
No,
you're going to resell your
I've
plans.
never used a saw in my life. I'll tell you what, anybody could do it.
Yeah. Well, if you could do
Considering
it,
putting the plans together to teach you how to make your own.
yeah.
I mean,
No, I love that.
cheaper. It's a lot cheaper.
Well, we're going to do a video of you actually making it, because
Yeah.
we're going to bring it back down for Derek, my son, to make one. And I'm going to get him on video. So he's not going to love me. Too bad. I'm going to make him do it anyway. But he likes making stuff, that's for sure. Well, good deal. All right. Well, that wraps it up today for the Charcuterie Launch Lab podcast. We are glad you guys are always here. Make sure you share, if you don't mind making a comment and telling us if we're doing you some good. If you love what we're doing, we'd love to hear from you. And if you have any ideas of what you'd like us to talk about, we got all kinds of things, everything from cutting up cheese to not cutting the cheese, but cutting up cheese, and getting your business online so the whole world finds out about you. That's what we're here for. So anyway, that's it today. Thanks for coming in, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.